It doesn't stink. Welcome back, everyone, to the Dirty Truth, part deuce.
Deuce.
Deuce. Get it?
So the update today, we're going to talk about what happens when you poop in a bucket. In this case, a fancy bucket.
An expensive bucket.
Yes.
But a good bucket. Because of the popularity of our first video on the Nature's Head composting toilet, we received a ton of questions. So we thought we'd take the opportunity to go through and answer some of those more delicate ones. So we'll go through these in the categories of dumping, cleaning, and sticky situation.
And stinky situations.
That too. Are you ready? These questions aren't in any particular order. They do fall under those three categories, and the majority of these are probably going to be for you, Brian, because you do a lot of toilet maintenance for us, which I really appreciate. So here's the first one. How do I know when to dump the solids?
You know it's time to dump when it gets stinky. Nah, I'm kidding. The manufacturer says somewhere between 60 and 80 uses, which for us, we don't count our uses.
No. We could put a little chalkboard up there and tick off each time we use no.
Probably not going to happen.
No.
So 60 to 80 uses, for a couple. If you have a larger family, obviously that's going to change slightly, perhaps. And as far as when we know it's time to change it, this little spider crank down here gets kind of hard to turn. And that's how you know.
Okay, can I give a better description of that? Well, if you need a crowbar to turn that handle, you know it's time to change it. Am I right?
Well, things are probably solidified at that point. So you need a whole different set of tools.
Right. And on the flip side of that, or maybe on the front side of that, how do you know when it's time to change the liquids?
So there's no real measurement there in terms of 60 urinations or 80 urinations, none of that. It's just the tank down here, and you can see the level of the urine as it starts to come up, it'll rise, and you can sometimes flash a...
I think it's over there.
And you can sometimes use a flashlight if you have one in there just to kind of take a look at the side, see if you can see the level, but it's pretty clear. And then, you just empty it.
Yeah, and Brian and I both make a habit when we are walking into the bathroom just to take a glance at that bottle so you don't have any issues later on.
So I'll talk about that for a second. If it does happen to overflow, it's not a huge deal. It's going to be a little smelly, but this whole bottom part right here is sealed, so the urine will spill over the top of the urine tank and then down into this trough, if you will, and then you just clean it. So it doesn't go all over the floor, which is good.
Thank goodness. Another question that we get quite frequently is how much does this thing weigh when it's full? What would you say?
It depends. Probably around 40 pounds, something like that.
Okay.
Without the urine tank. With the urine tank, then you're adding, about 15 more pounds. So.
And that comes into play when this thing has to be dumped, because you can either dump it inside or you can dump it outside. Yeah. Something that we learned. You want to talk a little bit about that?
It's just a whole process. You just make sure that if you're doing it inside or outside, to put down some plastic or something. I mean, this is not totally messless. I mean, when you empty it into a bag, something kind of invariably spills, just some of the grains of soil. Mm-hmm. But no real mess other than that. And then the same thing outside. Just feel like you have to cover your area, do that.
Right.
And then empty it that way.
I have to tell you, the first time Brian said, I'm going to change the solids tank inside the coach, I was horrified. I thought, no, you're not actually going to do that. But once he actually did that, and I saw, what was left, any type of residue, which was very, very minimal. It was a few little crumbs here and there. Not a concern any longer. We protect the area and we clean up with disinfectant just in case, something was to actually get on the floor. So it can be done inside or outside if needed.
Yep, no big deal.
Yeah. Another question that we received quite a bit is Do I have to clean the entire insides of the solids tank? Do I have to scrape the bar? Do I have to disinfect? What do I actually have to do to keep it clean?
Yeah, I think what they were meaning was just, get it back to a absolutely pristine condition.
Right.
You can certainly do that. That takes a considerable amount of effort to do it every time. And plus you just kind of get, the major stuff, and it's not a big deal to leave anything behind, just a little bit. But yeah, we clean it occasionally. I mean, the full clean occasionally, once since we've had it, I think. Other than that, things stay relatively clean as long as you keep up with it, like Shauna said, with some disinfectant wipes, or just kind of making sure you get all the major stuff out whenever you change the toilet.
Peat moss or coco coir? We get that question a lot as well. What are your thoughts?
Coco coir is just the brown outer husk of the coconuts when they're harvested. Instead of using or throwing that away, they're now finding a use for that, which happens to be in composting toilets and lots of other things too. It's a great planting material. So sphagnum peat moss, it's just as good as coco coir. The problem is it comes in a larger bale usually. It's just not convenient. I would probably use it because it's cheaper than coco coir. I would probably use it if I had room to store a bale of it. Coco coir comes dehydrated in little blocks, and you just rehydrate that with some water, and you're good to go. We'll put links to the coco coir that we use in the description. You can certainly go to Lowe's or any home store, any garden center, I suppose, and ask for sphagnum peat moss. It must be sphagnum peat moss. It is cheaper, but again, it's just in a much larger bale. It's not dehydrated, ready for rehydration like the blocks of coco coir are.
Recently, we put ourselves through a 30-day boondocking challenge, and this scenario came up for us. But the question is, how do I dump my urine bottle when boondocking?
One of three ways, really, or perhaps four. First way is that you can dump it down the drain, like the shower drain, into your gray water tank. Perfectly fine. It's not sewage, and it's still not sewage even when it gets to your gray tank. The second way would be to, when you're out, if you have a place to go into a town or something, and find
like a campground bathroom
kind
or
of
something?
campground bathroom or something nearby, you can certainly, take the tank there. You could also, buy a much larger tank, like one of those big 5-gallon collapsible water bladders.
Could also use a Blue Boy type situation if you wanted.
Sure. Mm-hmm. And one of the more controversial ways would be to dig a cat hole. If you're out in the forest or someplace that allows that, is to dig a cat hole and empty the urine in there. One thing you want to do if you're dry camping in an area and you're questioning whether or not you could dump gray water or urine, just go online. You can find those rules and regulations for the area that you're in, just to make sure you're on the up and up.
Right. Another very popular question is, and this one definitely I'm going to direct to Brian because I think you've got this pretty well perfected, and I know you've shared some feedback with other folks as well. What's the best way to clean the liquid bottle, especially when you start to develop that crystal buildup, kind of that stainage around the sides of the bottle? What do you do?
Yeah, all that is the urine salts. So one surefire method that I found, just use really hot water. If you want to, boil half a gallon on the stove and then pour it into the tank and swish it around. What I usually do is I turn on the hot water on our outdoor shower, connect the jet to it, to the hose, so there's a nice spray of jet of water into the tank with hot water, and it just blasts all that stuff off and you're good to go.
Before we go any further, if you're wondering where we are in this beautiful setting, this is Quartzsite, Arizona, and we happen to be sitting here in the desert in March. That's just the beginning of March. The weather is gorgeous, and we have this huge wide open space all to ourselves.
Yeah, relatively free of people. Now, had you come here a month ago, this place was wall to wall people.
Absolutely.
Just as far as you could see, rigs. Hundreds of thousands. Mm-hmm. Okay, so switching gears here a little bit. Now that we talked about what can happen when you get that or how you can clean the crusties off inside the tank, another good question is, can I use disinfectant wipes to clean the toilet? Or how about regular bathroom cleaner?
What I do, and I brought show and tell choice. I do have disinfecting wipes, and I use these wipes. I go around the entire bowl of the toilet, around the rim of the toilet. I clean the inside of it very well with these disinfecting wipes, and it's really helped to keep it clean. It smells good. I like them, but I don't know about those other types of cleaners if it's recommended by the manufacturer. Maybe something to check.
Honestly, we didn't research that, so you can go on to the manufacturer's website, I'm sure, and ask those questions, or perhaps they have an FAQ section where it'll tell you, or someone will advise you, what products you can and can't use.
Right.
Just, I guess, in general, just use something mild, a mild cleaner, and you don't need to scrub it with a scrub brush.
Let's say, for instance, the urine leaks into the solids tank, and so it has a tendency when that happens to run around the seal inside. You may need to use something, and we have something a little more strong than disinfectant wipe to clean that up, and then we can get into that in a little bit.
Yeah, it's a cleaner and a enzyme deodorizer, so it doesn't just cover the smell, it actually does away with it altogether. So that's why we spray occasionally if that urine area were to leak just a bit around that seal. We just spray that. That's just fine. Another very popular question, and this has to do with perhaps social mores than anything, but the question we got quite often was, how do I discreetly carry my urine bottle to the bathroom to empty? And then people would normally go on, I'd feel like I'd be doing something wrong, or people were watching me.
Or I don't want somebody to see me carrying my pee to the bathroom. I totally get that.
Yeah, it's never happened to us. We've never been questioned, and I've used plenty of campground bathrooms and park bathrooms and the vault toilets, all that kind of thing. So what we do, or what I do rather, is we do slip it down inside of one of those reusable grocery bags. That way, if you're walking to the bathroom, people think you're going to take a shower or whatever. No big deal. I personally don't care about it. It's more for protecting other people's delicates than mine. I don't know.
They're delicates?
So as not to offend them.
Oh, okay, not to offend them. I don't know. I was the one who suggested that he carry it in a bag because I was embarrassed about it, but he obviously is not. And the kind of grocery bag that we use kind of has that plastic coating on it. So
yeah, it's like one of those rip-proof plastic reinforced bags.
Right. And the bottle fits in perfectly inside.
So another very popular topic has been the different chemicals or things you can use to remove urine smell. A lot of that has been associated with the tank. Some people say use pine sol, or some people say use bleach or sugar, or all these things. And I suppose it's worked for them. We just want to go the simple route. If we want to use some deodorizer in the tank, or if we need to deodorize the bowl or just use it in general, we use a spray bottle.
Yeah.
With vinegar.
We do. Vinegar
and water mix.
Another show and tell moment. This little green bottle actually comes with the toilet when you purchase it. And what we use this for is every time we go number one into the toilet, we spritz this, just like you would normally flush a sticks and bricks type toilet. We use this to spritz. It helps move everything down through the little holes and into the urine bottle. And it's dripping on me. And we keep vinegar and water in here because vinegar is a natural disinfectant. And we mix probably 50-50.
Yeah, about 50-50. It's also natural deodorizers. That's why I said earlier, we don't use any sort of caustic or other chemicals than we need to. Vinegar and water works just fine.
Yes. Again, we use this every time that we go number one into the toilet. Here's a question that we've received, and luckily for us, we haven't had to deal with it. What happens if I find little flies in my toilet? What do I do about it, and why? Why are they there?
Yes, so first of all, you got flies.
You got problems.
No problems. So, yeah, we've heard that you can certainly get flies almost like a little fruit fly sort of thing. Some people say that comes from using sphagnum peat moss. Again, we don't use that, so we don't know. We've never had any flies in ours. When we were in Florida, we had, or not Florida, it was, Florida near Daytona. We had a bit of an ant problem. So a bunch of ants got in and got everywhere. I don't attribute that to the toilet whatsoever, although they were on the toilet and in the bathroom and in the kitchen and everywhere else.
They're pretty much everywhere, right?
Yeah. So what do you do if you have flies? I would say just change the toilet. Be done with it. Don't try to use any sort of fly spray or any of that stuff. Just change the toilet and just be done with it. That's easier in the long run. Another one that we're getting, we got it quite a few times, is what if I drop that? Yeah, I think you need to take that one.
I think I know which one you're talking about. Okay. What if I drop a tampon or a wet wipe in the toilet? All right. First of all, don't panic and don't feel like you have to reach in there and grab it.
Yeah.
I've asked Brian the same question because we use wet wipes, and I always wondered, what's going to happen? Same thing for a tampon. If it falls in there, leave it. Just leave it. If you really feel strongly that it should not be there, then simply change out your solids tank.
Yeah, it's.
Is there really anything more than that?
Nah, it's not going to hurt anything.
Okay.
So it's more of a mess to try to fish that stuff out than just leave it. That's my position.
Right. Speaking of things that you may drop into the solids tank, another one that we get asked quite a bit is, what if I vomit in the solids tank? And I think in our first video we said, just don't.
Yeah.
Just don't.
There are plenty of other things you can grab, a bag, a waste basket. Yeah, just so go in there.
Yeah, try to avoid that at all costs.
Yeah.
If it happens, the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to have to change your solids tank.
Yeah, if that happens, that would be my recommendation. Don't keep that in there.
Another question is it possible for mold to grow in the solids tank? And if so, what do I do about it?
Yes, it's possible. We've had it a couple of times. I attribute it to being in humid areas because there is a certain amount of humidity in the tank, a certain amount of humidity in the air. The fan does help draw some of that humidity out. We've had mold a couple of times. Personally, I've just left it. It's never become an issue. If it's super bad, you might want to change the toilet because obviously things are too moist in there. Or you could take some coco coir or dried sphagnum peat moss to put in and kind of incorporate that to help dry things out. Personally, if it got too bad, I would change the toilet.
Those times when we had the mold in there, was there an odor? I didn't notice an odor, but
it wasn't a smell of mold per se. It
Okay.
just smelled like earth.
Earth.
Yeah. The kind of mold you're going to deal with in that is not going to be anything harmful as far as I know. It's not black mold.
Another way that you can tell that you might be getting mold in your tank without actually seeing it, if you've recently changed the tank and that handle is starting to get really hard to turn, for some reason it may have started to clump in there because either too much moisture or you've got mold.
Yeah, so the whole idea, and I didn't really talk about reconstituting the coco coir, for instance, but when you reconstitute that, you want to make it so that when you grab a handful of it, it just feels spongy, much like a sponge, but when you try to wring it out, water doesn't come out. It's kind of the consistency you want, where it's spongy, dry, and not dripping of water. That's what you want for coco coir.
This is the kind of consistency you want to see when you rehydrate it, where it's spongy, but not wringing wet.
I will take this next question as a woman because I think this happens to us more often than not. What if I pee in the solids tank? I think it's a gamble as to whether or not that's going to mix up in your composting, kind of go away. But the worst thing that can happen is if you do that and the smell does not go away, just change your solids tank. I mean, it kind of really comes down to that.
That's it. A little bit's fine. Continuous use or continuous liquid, additions to that solids tank is just not going to be good.
Right.
Because then you're creating sewage and you have a whole different mix of bacteria and things going on that we're not going to get into, other than just change it if it happens.
Yeah. And let me back that up with, there are two concerns. One is for women, you have to kind of stop and start, whether you're going number one or number two, you have to kind of move forward and backwards on the toilet. If it's just a matter of, whoops, I slipped a little bit as I was going number two, that's one thing. If you just do a full on right into the solids tank, I think you're going to have the opportunity to change your solids tank.
Yeah. All right, so wrapping up with sticky situations.
Or stinky, as you said.
Yeah, so a lot of people want to know, and this is kind of not specific to RV communities, but even the RV community has kind of always been up in arms, I suppose, for lack of a better term, about the toilet paper and the kind you should use with an RV toilet. In this case, a composting toilet. And the answer is?
any kind you want to,
Yeah.
really.
So like Shauna said, you can really use any kind of toilet paper you want, a 1-ply, 2-ply, you know, baby diapers if you want that level of cleanliness.
I've never heard of that kind.
But
Don't put baby diapers in here.
So my point is, you know, once you start using toilet paper and you use that, I mean, 2 or 3 people, a couple is fine, one person would be fine, couples probably right on the edge, 3 or 4 people, you're not going to want to put toilet paper, or if you do, you're going to be changing this every couple of days.
Yes.
You know, as we stated in our earlier video, we do not put toilet paper in here. That goes into a little bundle, which goes into the garbage can. So yeah, use any kind you want. Just be cautious to not use too much, or your solids tank is going to fill up quickly,
Right.
and you have to change it more frequently. We do not put toilet paper. I think the first maybe month we tried to, I don't recall, it wasn't very long.
Yeah.
And then we just said, wow, this is just bulking up too quickly. And what we decided to do is to take our used toilet paper, and you know, this has probably been one of the most
controversial.
yeah, I mean, people have gotten vile. I mean, literally, people have gotten vile with us about how we, you know,
funny.
choose to take care of our used toilet paper.
Right.
And then, you know, it was bizarre. Some of the reactions people had, and some of what they had to say about us as people. It was incredible. Anyway.
Yeah.
Take it away. Show them how we take care of our used TP.
Okay. In our last video, we talked about using this type of a can in order to be a little more discreet and to contain our toilet paper, since we don't put it into the toilet. It has a lid. It's got a nice little step at the bottom. And keeping this lid closed, you don't see anything, you certainly don't smell anything. But to even take it a step further, what we do is we take our toilet paper. I'll use a small demonstration here for others. Let's say this is the soiled paper. We wrap it in clean paper, just like this. It's a nice little paper burrito.
Isn't that civilized?
Yeah, amazing, right? And we put it into the trash can. Now, every time this gets opened, all you see is little toilet paper burritos, nothing gross, nothing stinky. Now, when you use this method, of course, you're going to end up using a lot more toilet paper. It's inevitable, but for Brian and I, it just works. That's what we prefer to do, so we spend a little bit more money on toilet paper.
Another very popular question that we get probably from as many women as we do men, and that is, do you tell your male guests to sit down when they pee?
When they use our toilet.
Yeah.
Not just
when
in
they're
general.
using our toilet. That has happened once, precisely once. And we told the person that they would need to sit down and pee. They walked in, took a look at the toilet, and promptly walked out and peed in the bushes.
And disclaimer, not because the toilet was dirty or gross or anything. It's just they were going to have nothing to do with sitting down or using those 2 holes.
The person said, I looked down and saw those 2 little holes and didn't know which one to go in, so he was done. So there you have it. Just don't invite male guests into your home.
No. So because of that, we haven't had many takers, users who want to actually try out this potty. Most of our family and friends know that we have this composting toilet, and they just stay clear of it. That's okay.
Yeah, I mean, we're not quite sure. I think it's maybe some sort of mental image that people have when they see the thing, or we don't know what it is, but
yeah,
it's not for them. Another really hot question we get quite a bit is it really worth $1,000? We didn't pay quite $1,000 for it. I think $965, something like that, close enough. But you know, it was worth it to us. It extends our capability of dry camping. We use a fraction of the water that most RVers use in a traditional toilet system.
And it saves us on dumping fees, on having to dump our black tank more frequently, where, as you said, we can boondock longer.
Right.
Just, it fits our lifestyle, and it fits what we were looking for. So for us, $1,000 was worth it. One of my favorite questions, I know Brian's going to love this. The question is, and you know what, as I say Brian's going to love it, I assume they're not talking about me. Now that I say that, but
we've always taken the question as if it were directed towards me specifically as a man.
Yeah.
Or as a male.
Right. And the question is, why don't you just pee outside?
So that is a very easy question to answer, and here's my answer for that. I do. I'll do that in usually 2 circumstances. And that is if another RVer decided they needed to park too close to us, or if a nearby RVer is running their generator a little too long and it's one of those big, loud, clunky construction ones, then yeah, I'll pee outside.
I had no idea you could answer that one. What the? I like that. Here, cheers. That's pretty funny. All right, in all seriousness.
No, in all seriousness, I would love to do that. You know, when we're out in the forest or something like that, it's secluded. I mean, what man doesn't go out and urinate in the woods? You know, it wouldn't be normal, I don't think, if I didn't. That said, we try to maintain a level of decorum, and, you know, just it's not cool to pee outside when there are a bunch of people around, so I usually won't do it then. We hope this update video, Composting Toilets, What They Don't Tell You Part Deuce, has helped answer some of your questions, maybe help dispel some misunderstandings or beliefs surrounding the use of composting toilets. Hey, if you liked the video, give us a thumbs up. If you didn't, give us 2 thumbs down.
Right, and we would love to have you subscribe and join our Lou crew. Let us know how we did on this video. Did we answer your questions? We tried to get all of the most popular ones.
Yeah. We literally had, I don't know, well over almost 2,000 questions or something like that in comments. And we answered every single one that we wanted to. If you have any comments or questions or clarifications that you might need, leave those in the comment section below.
And hit the notification bell, and then you'll know every time we launch a new video. And with that, we'll see
you
ya
next week.